What's good, Dragon Ball fans? Today is Daima Day, and welcome to the review of Episode 1, Conspiracy. I've been really excited about Daima since the moment it was announced. Just being a fan of the series for more than 30 years of my life, and then this being the final project of Toriyama, I was really excited about what he was doing. Even though I wasn't really sure about everything, especially with the GT similarities, but I was excited about the possibility of new lore and additional details and everything like that. And we've already gotten some of that from the first episode. We've also gotten some potential retcons and inconsistencies, possibly plot holes. I don't necessarily want to call them that yet because things could be corrected or explained later on. But right now, there are definitely some inconsistencies with things that we've seen in Super and the Super manga and whatnot. But with that said, go ahead and smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be doing more Daima reviews as well as videos based around Dragon Ball content from the manga, the games, the anime, as well as other movies and whatnot. So let's get into it. So when the show starts, one of the first things we see is a recap of the entire history of Dragon Ball. You know, Goku's arrival on Earth, being raised, his adventures, his meeting his friends, and whatnot. The recall is animated similar to what was done in Dragon Ball Superhero. And I gotta say, I love it when they update these moments from the past. I would love for Dragon Ball, the original series, to get remade and brought up to modern standards, because again, I think a lot of people underestimate how important and how fantastic the original portion of the series is. You know, I hate the people that just skip it to go to Z, because I was there when Dragon Ball first aired, at least in the US, and I loved it and I wanted to see more. You know, I didn't go to Z because I had a choice. I went to Z because I had no choice. They ran one season of Dragon Ball and then it was on to Z. But I digress. And then we get to King Goma, the new Demon King, and his Makaioshin, or at least that's what I'm going to call him right now, partner, Degesu. And it was already interesting right there because the fact that he said his brother was the Supreme Kai, of Universe 7. So that makes me wonder, with that reveal, is he actually a Makaioshin like we've been thinking? Is he still a Makaioshin and they're still considered family because of, the nature of how Kaioshins are born, and how Makaioshin are born when Toriyama dropped that lore? So are they still considered family? And then assuming they are, like, how do they interact? Is because obviously, Kaioshin knew about Deborah, but I don't think he was hanging out in the demon realm. So when would he have gotten a chance to be around the Gesu? So that's interesting. Also, I thought it was kind of cool because they planted the seed and they ended up answering it right afterwards. So I thought that was great. But they were like talking about the ears and suggesting that people who are demons have the pointy ears. And I was like, I wonder about Namekians, because we already knew from Dragon Ball Super that Namekians were not originally from Universe 6. I'm sorry, Universe 7 or Universe 6. We didn't really know where they came from. We just knew they weren't really from the universe and they had come over at some point. So it made me wonder, are they going to tie that in? Are they going to say the Namekians are demons? Which is pretty cool considering, the whole Demon King Piccolo thing. Turns out that was the case. Oh, and, Garlic Jr., being a demon, bringing demon armies and whatnot. So I thought that was pretty cool connection. So, like I said, they're watching all this stuff about what happened to Majin Buu, what happened to Deborah. And clearly Goma is happy and scared because he's being manipulated by Degesu and his sister, Arnisu. I probably said that wrong. But he's clearly being manipulated by the two of them. And they've got him scared about the possibility of the mortals coming to the demon realm. So here's something, again, this is like a new reveal, but it's also kind of interesting and kind of inconsistent. It's not a major inconsistency. The major inconsistency is coming later. But, they were talking about the fact that the mortals on Earth had Dragon Balls. They have Dragon Balls in the demon realm, but their Dragon Balls, they only have 3. And again, we learned in Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Balls the number of Dragon Balls are determined by the Namekian who creates them. So there can be essentially as many as they want or as few as they want. So we had the Namekian doing the Granola arc, Monaito, who only had 2 Dragon Balls. But the thing that's weird about that to me is the fact that, like Purunga, that dragon requires 7 balls, just like Shenron. And then, of course, Super Shenron requires 7 balls. So that's not a huge thing, but it's like, why is there the deviation with the Demon Realm balls? Especially because we're all going to assume that the Super Dragon Balls are the first set at 7. So it's like, you would think later iterations would be the ones that were fewer, kind of like Monaito's. But anyway, they were dumbfounded by the fact that the Dragon Balls were there, and the fact that they gave 3 wishes. And then he needed a password, which is basically just the dragon's name, which again is silly to me because, Shenron and then Super Shenron. Yeah, so like if you have no knowledge of the dragons at all, I can understand it being a surprise, but you would think, considering, the potential Makaioshin knows about Purunga, said he's read about it, he would know about Zamasu, or I said his name wrong, the dragon god who created Super Shenron. So from there, you get the introduction of Neva, who is a super old, smelly, and kind of dumb but kind of evil Namekian. And they have him go with them to the demon realm, or as they leave the demon realm. And that's another thing, is like when they're leaving the demon realm, it's suggested that, at least I took it as, I'm going to rewatch the episode because, again, I was watching it subbed and I might have missed something, but it was suggested that they could travel between the universes. They specifically said, we want to go to Universe 7, we want to go to Earth. So it's like, okay, does that mean there's only one demon realm? Kind of like there's only one version of the, not heavenly realm, but wherever Zeno and the angels and all of them are at. There's only one version of that, because all the universes will go to meet Zeno and everything. So I was wondering if there's only one demon realm. When they come to Earth, they go to the Lookout. And again, they talk about Namekians being descendants from demons and from the demon realm, Popo included, because of their pointy ears. And then, they ask about the Dragon Balls. And Neva's powers were pretty interesting, because I was wondering how this was going to work, because of the fact that, we knew from the storyline perspective, the Dragon Balls had been used recently. So Neva uses these powers where he is basically like able to home in on where the Dragon Balls are at and pull them directly to the Lookout, and then able to reverse their status, which is obviously something we've never seen, because when Dragon Balls have come back or traveled the planets and everything, if they were still stone, they were still stone, and the Namekians never brought them back. Definitely interesting powers. Oh, and speaking of Neva's Dragon Balls, apparently he has 3 Dragon Balls, and then they're in the stomachs of these warriors, and so they've never been used in the demon realm, or at least as far as we know. So their plan is to make a wish, basically weaken everybody who was part of defeating Majin Buu and defeating Deborah. So when they make the wish, Shenron is like super specific. And again, this is something else I was wondering about, how they were going to handle it, how it was going to make sense, because obviously Goten and Trunks were already children. So what does that mean for them? And then, of course, with everyone else, like, how did they decide? So they wish them to be children. Everybody gets turned into children, and then Goten and Trunks get turned into babies. They get turned into, I think it was first graders. Now, one of the questions that came up beforehand was about Kaioshin and Kibito, and this is definitely potentially an inconsistency, mistake. Again, it may get cleaned up later on. We don't know. We'll see. So I don't really want to call it a plot hole, but it's definitely an issue right now. So, first of all, if you go to Battle of Gods, Kaioshin and Kibito were fused during Battle of Gods. That's the first thing. The second thing is the fact that they used the Namekian Dragon Balls to unfuse themselves. We learned that in Dragon Ball Super. So now in this series they're already unfused. Now the reason they said they unfused is they let Boo suck them in, which had been a long-standing theory that fans had like forever, that something about the inside of Boo caused the fusion to break. That's what people thought happened to Vegito. And then years later, Super comes along and actually answered the question. And Super said, no, it wasn't what happened inside of Boo. It was actually that when mortals use the Potaro, there is a time limit. And Goku and Vegeta had met the time limit, and that's why they defused. So now we have this new wrinkle, because again, the new retcon was it was a time limit for mortals. And now we're back to the original idea of no, it was Boo's body. And maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe there is a time limit, and maybe it was also Boo's body. We'll see. But that's not the main big issue. The issue is, again, Kaioshin and Kibito were fused in Battle of Gods. And Kaioshin and Kibito had to remove the fusion with the Dragon Balls. So if they could just use Boo, why didn't they do that? So now, since they're defused, because people were thinking that the wish was going to cause them to defuse, or whatever the curse was that was going to make everybody small was going to make them defuse, but instead they were already defused. So the question is, like, what's going to make them fuse back? Are they going to fuse back? Because in order to fix the quote-unquote inconsistency, they need to be fused by the end of the series. So is that going to happen or not? And then from there, they make the wish. They beat up Dende and Popo. And everybody shrinks down to being mini. So the question that I have, I think pretty much everyone has, and Sparking Zero opens this question up even more, is how weak did everyone become? Because we know, if we use GT as a basis, Goku got weaker, but he was still extremely powerful. Looking at Sparking Zero, Mini Goku from Daima pretty much does not have any of his normal abilities. We know at some point he's going to get the Super Saiyan transformation, but he doesn't do any Ki Blast. He doesn't have a Kamehameha. So it's wondering, like, okay, so how weak did they become? Are they as weak as they were when they were kids? Which, like for Vegeta, he would still be insanely strong, relatively speaking. Or are they like the strength of like human children? Like the average mortal child, which is, again, incredibly weak. It makes me wonder. So that's going to be very interesting, especially with where the series goes and how they handle everything. Overall, I thought the episode was done really well. It established a lot of mystery and questions that want to be asked and answered. Again, it makes you think about different things different ways, from the Namekian reveal to the Dragon Balls and everything. Obviously, they're planning plot points with the third eye demon item, as well as the three soldiers that have the Dragon Balls in their belly, and a lot of other things. So I'm very interested in where the series is going. I'm excited to learn about new lore and revelations, and it's just cool to have new Dragon Ball. especially Dragon Ball that's done by Toriyama and Dragon Ball that's just animated well, which was some things that we did not have at the very beginning with Super. And again, I love Super, but I'm really excited for where Daima's going, and I just hope it's able to stick the landing. So with that said, what are your thoughts on episode 1? Sound off in the comments below, and come back for more. Talk to you later.